Okay, finally, time to finish this thing up. So, as you can see, the hose kit finally came in. Now, these are actually the wrong color threadings. I wanted the red and blue fittings, but I guess everything is AN6 now, so if I really was that bummed about it, I could change it, but I need to get this thing back on the road so I can have a car for work. This is probably as straightforward as it gets. You thread the fitting into there. This is a barb fitting, 19 and 19. This swivels with this J connection. This is a regular rubber line with the AN fitting around it. So you just loosen this Phillips head screw, slide that on there. So now what we need to do is come underneath the car. And I've never done this, so I'm probably gonna do it off camera. And this is the step where there's the most information provided. So I don't really need to kill too much time on it. But we'll measure out these lines and where we're gonna cut them. And then go from there. Install those compression fittings and then this should be done. So, all right, let's get to it. Okay, so had the car running. We've got that tiny little drop of fuel to contend with. I'm trying to figure out how to seal up these threads. What the problem is if you use Teflon tape, it's going to clog the injectors. And I can't find any sort of thread sealer that is widely available that I can use, so brainstorming time. But everything else is good. This is all nice and dry now, so that's really good. Alrighty, well, a couple days late, but let's talk about the Lindsey Racing fuel rail install. So I finally got everything done, and I'm happy to say it's leak-free, but that did not come without its issues. So, seeing as everything's installed, I'm just going to walk through an overview of what it took to get everything leak-free, what I used, and my overall thoughts, and is it worth it, and all that other kind of stuff. So, for starters, let's start over here. The fuel lines with the compression fittings, you can see that they kind of run down in there behind the wall. So if there were any leaks for any reason at the fittings, it's going to hit the wall and not spray on the header, so that's good to go. Like I said, there's a plethora of information available on how to install the stainless steel hoses and the compression fittings and all that other stuff. So my main focus really wanted to be on up here, engine side. You know, the height of the regulator. I ran into issues with, hitting the rubber hoses for the insulating on the, or insulation rather, on the wiring loom coming out of the firewall, as well as the damper here. So I will stick to what I said as far as not using any sort of insulating tape or Teflon tape on these fittings, on the barbed fittings. So if it's a barbed hose fitting, so for example the compression fittings, don't use them on there. But I had one hell of a time trying to get the leaks all sorted out back here, especially with this T-junction. Now the tighter I went, the better it got. One issue that I had was that the regulator here was interfering with the engine hoist mount, and so that would actually push this up, and that was causing a leak in here. So I recommend using actual Teflon tape here. And I figured what I would do is, let me get a better angle on that connection. I figured what I would do is, the best thing to do is tape it on the upper threads, and that way the lower threads don't have any material to contaminate the fuel rail. I actually did it twice, and because I needed to redo it. And the second time when I went in there and I opened this all up and I removed the Teflon tape, nothing had fallen into the rail. There was nothing floating around or anything like that. And the car's been running great. So I think as long as you're careful with this connection, then you shouldn't run into any issues. You can follow the same practices maybe with all of these straight fittings up here. I tried to find some non-hard setting thread sealant, and I think what I came up with, if I reach into the box over here, was basically whatever I could just pick up from the local hardware store. However, I almost don't recommend it, because when there were leaks on the outside, the gas was just basically liquefying it. So take that as you will. So I'm not going to provide any info on that. I'd rather you kind of go out there on your own and figure it out. I will say is, once you get this tight enough, once you get everything tight, and you really got to get it tight, it's not going to leak. So everything is dry up here. I've got over 150 miles on all these components so far, and everything's been fine. The only thing that's superficial that kind of sucks is these hoses, the fittings on them weren't the color that I wanted. The fuel rail itself wasn't the color that I wanted. So I paid a lot of money to get something that I was 100% not going to be satisfied with from the beginning. But functionally, it does exactly what I needed it to do. And that's all that matters, because I need the car to get around, and this is my daily. So if you're thinking about doing it, or if your fuel rail is cracked and you're running into a bunch of problems, I'd say instead of spending $1,000 on an OEM rail, definitely get this one. You know, I have my gripes with the colors and all that sort of stuff, but I will say that the customer service was fantastic. Dave answered all my emails readily, my phone calls readily, explained to me situations as far as, you know, availability and all of that other kind of stuff. And makes me definitely want to order more stuff from them. I would love to do the Lindsey, the MAF conversion kit here. So should that day ever come, we'll see. But yeah, for now, here's the install. Here's how it looks. You can get a good idea of, I think a lot of people are interested in the black rail, sort of these neutral colors. I thought it would have been cool to have the red rail, but keep the black stainless steel hoses with the red and blue fittings. That was kind of what I was going for. And I found a handful of photos. I thought it would look really cool, especially in contrast with the NGK plugs. It's really funny, but this car is, it's turning into everything that I wanted the other car to be, sort of on accident too. When I first got this car, I really didn't want to touch it. I wanted to keep it as bone stock as possible. And now so far it's got the exhaust on there. We've got the racing fuel rail. So injectors are getting... Oh, that was actually one thing that I want to talk about. I noticed, maybe I'm crazy, maybe it was the butt dyno was off, but I noticed that the car, after I installed the rail and took it out for a couple drives, had a little bit better throttle response. So that could be due to either just the injectors being properly sealed now and distributing fuel more efficiently or effectively, I guess. Or it could be maybe there was a vacuum leak earlier that's now been eliminated since I've gone through and added some new vacuum. You reroute the vacuum here and the stamper doesn't run on vacuum. I really couldn't say what led directly to that benefit, but I definitely noticed it could just been a culmination of fresh oil, fresh plugs, fresh wires, and overhauling the fuel system, which now at this point is completely overhauled all the way to the pump, the filter. So the fuel system is essentially brand new. So as far as a reliability standpoint, I'm happy with that. But yeah. So anyways, there's the final thoughts on the rail. I hope you guys enjoyed these couple of videos, and I hope that these tips have helped you out. Let me add one last thing here. When you go to install the rail, what I recommend doing is bolting the rail down first in a test fit, and then I would install this T-piece first and crank it down as tight as you can get it with the rail being bolted to the car, because that will allow you to push in on this, let's call this the y-axis here, if this is you know, on this plane, it will bring in the damper much closer. And in doing that, we'll also move this adapter piece further off the engine bay bracket there. Sorry for the poor lighting. But I would recommend doing that first, cranking that down as tight as you can get it, and then trying to install this either on or off the car. And it still might be better to kind of fit the rail if it's not down all the way, but once you start to tighten it, it will come off, adding so much pressure to the interference with the wiring loom protection hose there. So same deal with the vacuum lines. You're going to eliminate one vacuum line, which is great. Just kind of neatly route everything. As opposed to having the wiring loom go on top of the rail, I just moved it so that it was in conjecture with the spark plug wires and tucked in and cable managed and nice and neat. So yeah, there's the install. I hope this video was helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next one, I guess. Thanks for watching.